No, we are on tab 12.
Okay.
So, Council, if I could please have a motion to resume. Councillor Perry, thank you. Second. Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Contrary. Madam Clerk, Councillor Humphreys had to leave,
Okay.
so she will not be back.
So we're in here?
Okay, so we are going to move, Council, to tab 12.
Mayor Don, I know Marco's waiting for the study one. I don't know if there's an opportunity just to do the studies.
Sure.
And perhaps maybe deal with something to allow Marco or some other staff members to get on with their day, so to speak. So I'd be happy to move that forward.
I can imagine, though, that they would not want to be here, being riveting and all that.
I'm sure he'll be here with us in spirit.
Councillor Abel's seconding that. All in favor of moving that forward? Contrary? That's carried. Then we'll move to tab 13. And that is the draft studies and other capital projects. There's two items in there, 13-2, 13-3. And the capital scoring studies and other, that's, so Mr. Ramuno, do you have any general, first of all, Council, is there any comments on, do you wish to pull any of these? Councillor Abel, Councillor Thompson?
I'm just looking at the $300,000 for a review, so I would just like to ask the director a little more on
Okay,
that.
right. Okay, so let's, so just, that would be the second item then? 13-3? All right, so we'll just deal with that one, then we'll move all of them. So, Councillor Abel, you're
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm just looking at the explanation. We'll update the framework to manage how the town will evolve over the next 20 years. I could see maybe over 20 years, 300,000, but it's just earmarked 300 for this year, and then in 10 years, well, 5 more years. So if Mr. Ramuno wouldn't mind just giving us a little more explanation.
Mr. Ramuno?
First of all, we're not hiring lawyers, are we?
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay. Unfortunately, or fortunately, staff can't call a question a privilege. Mr. Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the 300,000 budget is for the OP review and update that we're expected to start in 2016 as part of our 5-year review. I didn't adjust that number. We had that $300,000 figure in every 5 years. I don't expect that we'll spend 300. When we did our last OP update in 2010, that was a complete rewrite, and we budgeted about 300, and we spent close to that. So I kept the 300 in there, but I don't really foresee that we'll need that entire amount. As you know, this time around we are required by the province to update our plan by 2018 in response to the province's amendment to the growth plan, and they're extending and updating their planning horizon, their population and employment projections. And I think Council's seen something from me a couple months ago, and Regional Council is dealing with their York Region Municipal Comprehensive Review. So we are required to update or have our plan updated by 2018. So we're expected to start, subject to Council's direction, in 2016.
Councillor?
And lastly, thank you, Mr. Ramuno. And where would you be putting that money? Would you be outsourcing some of those funds for help? Or, I mean, you're not buying anything apart from a service. You don't mind?
Mr. Ramuno?
So, Mr. Mayor, no, I mean, if we decide to secure the assistance of an external planner, help us with the process, that's where the majority of the cost would go to. Last time around, we did retain an external planning firm to help us with the rewrite of our OP and also the promenade plan and the secondary plan back in 2010.
And before I go to Councillor Thompson, I will note that 270,000, so 90% of that funding is from the DC. world, so it's not a direct hit on the tax levy. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, and part of it was answered when Marco said that the last time around, even though it was a fuller, more robust, more comprehensive study, it was 300,000. But through you to Mr. Ramuno, would you think that this is similar to what we went through with the DC charge bylaw, in that, you know, it's a very specialized field, and so it often involves bringing on, you know, an external who has specialized knowledge, as opposed to us bringing somebody on internally on a contract basis to lead us through this process.
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, exactly. I think we're looking at someone with the specialized sort of knowledge to assist in, you know, policy writing, and also to assist in, you know, that public consultation process that goes along with any of these type of updates to official plan documents. But again, you know, I'll do my best to, you know, try and, you know, accomplish most of that work as much as we can in-house, but I wanted to include something just in case we need to go externally, depending on, you know, how much of the OP we want to open up and take a look at with respect to any particular special study area that we may want to focus on.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I look at this the same way I was looking at the strategic plan. The strategic plan went through an extensive process with council and the public. And when it came back to council about a month ago, and I asked about us hiring a consultant for that, and the answer was no. We were just going to have a look at it and see if it, you know, needed any tweaking. The same thing with the official plan. It wasn't, I was on that committee, it wasn't a complete rewrite. It's just that maybe in the preceding years, they kind of looked at it and said, oh, maybe, oh, this is good enough. Whereas we looked at every page of it just to see that it still was applicable for Aurora, and the consultant helped a lot. It was a long process, including the developers. So I would be surprised if we ended up spending this kind of money for a consultant. I think the really hard work was done in 2010, and yes, we want to look at it again to make sure it still suits Aurora, but I would be disappointed if we spent a lot of this money on a consultant, because we've already done that.
Any other comments? Councillor Abel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, would there be an opportunity for council to share in some of the updates, and maybe like so that we're kept abreast and up to date of the official plan?
Mr. Ramuno, could you give us a bit of an overview of how this would progress?
Certainly. I mean, through you, Mr. Mayor, first off, I mean, should council, you know, approve the budget, we'll report back to council with a work plan. And obviously, if we're going to retain external services, we'll need to award a contract, and there'll be a separate report for that. So we'll prepare a work plan. But the way I see this at this point is the region is going through their official plan update at the moment, and there'll be a report in November to regional council on the recommended or the preferred growth scenarios, and I did report to council on that back in the spring. So, you know, in the new year, we would, you know, report back on the work plan and identify the areas of the official plan that we, you know, some suggested areas of review, and we'd also obviously be looking to council for some input with respect to, you know, types of special studies, if any, that you want us to take a look at.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing about the official plan review was that the region did a major official plan review, and then our Aurora official plan had to conform to the regions. So it's, I mean, some of it is made in Aurora, but a lot of it is conforming to the official plan. So unless the region is planning on doing a big update and changes, then I think we're in pretty good shape. Mr. Ramuno, do you know what the region is planning?
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the region is going through their, what they call municipal comprehensive review. And again, there are a bunch of background studies. They've been at it for over a year now, and they're hoping to have an adopted official plan sometime later on in 2016. And the process was similar to back in 2010. They had started it first, and then we had, started ours a little after. I mean, they both feed into each other. They're looking at, updating their official plan. And again, the primary reason is we're all required to update our official plans in response to the province's amendment. So they're looking at some of their community building policies as well. And so once their document is complete, we'll take a look at that. And again, we will provide council with an update on the region's plan as well with respect to what they've changed and, what's different and what we may want to undertake as well as part of our review. So that'll be part of a future report on sort of work plan and where we want to go with respect to our review.
Councillor?
Thank you. And as a follow-up, will we be receiving the new official plan, at least the draft, before we start working on our official plan? If it has to be in conformity, we really need the regional plan.
I think that would be part of Mr. Ramuno's work plan.
Yes. We don't have, region doesn't have a draft yet, but.
So we would have it before we started our work on it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Can I have a motion, please? For both of them, both items? We didn't pull the other one. Councillors Abel and Maracas. All in favor? Contrary? Carried.
Mayor, we're voting in this $300,000 figure at the moment? Okay, so I'm opposed. Thanks.
Thank you. So then we'll go back to tab 12. So what I'm hearing, Mr. Ramuno, is if you don't have anything in tab 12, you can probably just scoot. One item, okay. Councillor Elliott. Mr. Elliott, please.
Staff would like to pull number 12-11. We need to amend the funding source and recategorize it as an R&R project.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We have specific items here that council would like to deal with separately. Councillor Thompson.
1222, 1223, and 1225.
I'm sorry, 22, 23, 25? Councillor Perry.
I think this side of the table would like to see 12-7 pulled.
Very good, sir. Councillor Maracas, did you have your hand up? No, Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually have 12-6, but as Tasha's not at the table today,
Well, that's Ivy's here representing her, so if we can't answer it, we can come back. So which particular item, please?
12-6?
12.6?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Any other items?
1218.
18? But you don't want sewers to 2C?
No, but I think Mr. Simonauskas, after having a conversation, probably can provide a little bit more details that council would
Just
appreciate.
asking. There's no other items. So I've got 6, 7, 11, 18, 22, 23, 25.
Thank you. 7, please.
7's been pulled.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Councillor Peary, holding down the left side of the table here. The far left, yes, the far left. We have to be careful what we say. There is a federal election coming up. We don't want to be using our chambers for campaigning purposes. May I have a motion then for the other items not requiring discussion? Councillor Maracas, Councillor Peary, for A, approve as is. All in favor? Contrary? It's carried. So first item is 6.
May I ask that we bring 25 forward? It's the only one that Marco has.
Very good.
That'll allow him to.
Can we move Councillor Thompson, seconded by?
Well, I'll wait for.
Well, we just want to move it forward.
Looking down the list, Ivy's only got one item. If you look at all the, everybody will only have a couple of items. So maybe we'll start from the top and work our way down. And once the
Anyways,
items are done.
there is a motion on the floor to move it forward. Well, actually, there isn't because no one seconded it. Councillor Abel. All in favor of moving item 1225 forward? Contrary? That's carried. I did say contrary. Opposed, pardon me. Okay. That's typically what the word contrary means, but you know. So that would be 1222, correct? 25, I'm sorry. Councillor.
So this has to do with the streetscape design and implementation plan. You know, I spoke against it in previous budget only in the sense that, you know, a fair bit of that project has to do with sidewalks and pavers and so forth. And my position at that time was that that money could be spent in better ways. I'm still of the same opinion. I'm fine if we want to do it as a B. It's conditional pending a further report and reopen that discussion on it. But I still feel that, you know, $70,000 to redo the sidewalks, put colored pavers, all that stuff, that's not necessarily what the priority in that area is, and that's my opinion at this point in time. So I'm opposed to A. I'd be willing to support B, but that's my position.
Okay, before we do that, I'll go to Councillors Gartner and Maracas. Oh, okay, all right. Councillor Maracas, comments?
I was just going to say, I'd prefer to see D. I don't think it's useful. I think we're going in many different directions. I just don't see us, I said it last year too. I just prefer to delete this because we're going in many different
Councillor
directions.
Thompson, I'm sorry, did you say B or C?
I said I'm opposed to A.
Yeah.
You know, I could support B with a report coming in, and that way we could have a redetermination of it and stuff. But I'm not. My objections still stand to it.
So the motion is B.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just say, although if the common feeling is B, I could support B, but I prefer D.
Councillor Abel?
I think this is the third time this has come up, and I've been opposed to it all along. I still am opposed to the scope of the project. In theory, I think there should be something put in, but I would not go at this scope. So I will oppose this plan, and if there's something else comes forward, I'll definitely give it consideration. So I'm kind of inkling to a future year, or just delete it.
Okay, right now we have B on the floor. Mr. Ramuno, if we were to, what new information do you think you could bring to us under looking for a report? Because as Councillor Abel said, we've gone through this, and Councillor Thompson, we've gone through this multiple times. What new information could you bring that might change Council's collective mind? I know I'm somewhat saying how good is your crystal ball, but.
Well, a couple things have changed in the recent past. I had a discussion with Ilmar, and I think the intention here was, you know, we broke it down into sort of a 3-year phasing program. And the first year, 2016, was supposed to be sort of coming up with a design, detailed design, and then construction in 2016. So the one thing I would suggest, and apologies, you know, I should have had that changed earlier on, was to include a smaller portion of that 2016 budget, say $150,000 for 2016, strictly for the design, because my understanding is it'll probably take more, you know, almost the entire year to finalize the design, bring that forward to council, and then push off the balance to the outgoing years 2017, 18, 19. And again, the other thing that's changed is I don't think we'd want to start anything over the next year or two along Yonge Street north of Wellington, because as council is aware, Chentro is still in the middle of construction, and we have the Treasure Hill application that'll be before council shortly, at least for the first public meeting on the west side. And if that development proceeds, I mean, that may be a year or 2-year construction window. And so we wouldn't want to do anything along that stretch. So my suggestion would be, though, to you know, identify a smaller amount, perhaps $150,000 for the initial design of the streetscaping work in the first year, and you know, move the balance to you know, forward years 16, 17, 18.
Thank you, Mr. Ramuno. I don't know, I'm not even sure I could support that, quite frankly. Just, it's come back so many times, there doesn't seem to be an appetite at council for doing that. I could see perhaps after we look at, the street parking plan that we're going to be looking at come in a couple of months, after we put that together, I think it would be an appropriate time to relook at that. So I won't support a B, which is on the floor right now, unless someone would like to change that to a C or a D. I will vote against B and then look for a different motion. Councillor?
You know, hearing it around the table, I really think that probably the best is C, defer to the next budget cycle. There's a lot of different things ongoing that perhaps need to be resolved and settled before revisiting this issue, including not just the parking.
Okay, well, let me go to the seconder then. Councillor Gartner, you had seconded that?
I'm okay with that, Mr. Mayor, as long as, and here it says future year, we're identifying the next budget cycle.
Yep. Councillor Perry?
I would only say that it's been shown time and time again that if you can make a space more walkable, more pedestrian friendly, you'll end up bringing more people into the downtown core. I've never been in favor of strictly sidewalk work, but I do think that there is work involving the sidewalks that we need to do to make our downtown core more pedestrian friendly so that people feel safer downtown walking on the sidewalk, so that, you know, patrons can go into a sidewalk patio and feel safe, you know, having a meal there. I think that there is definitely more work to do in our downtown core to make it more appealing to people coming to come shop and to come visit, to come eat, to come look around. I think the cultural precinct study that we're undertaking is definitely something that's going to help us lead us in a direction. But we do need to do work to the physical hardscapes in our downtown core to make them more appealing to people to come. I'm okay with deferring this for another year because I do think that there is work to be done in the meantime. But I don't want this to fall off the table entirely. I think D would be a terrible decision in the future. There is work that needs to be done in our downtown core, and if anybody's walked it, I think they'd agree with me.
So the motion for C is on the floor. I'm sorry, Councillor Abel, would you wish to speak?
I'm sort of along the same lines of Councillor Perry, but I would begin with widening the sidewalk. Okay, so take down those buildings and widen it.
Councillor Thompson?
While we're deferring this, I think what I'm hearing around the table is it's almost people want a revisit of the whole plan. Yeah. You know, because certain components are not in the plan, the widening is not in the plan, so I think we continue on with those things we have approved, see where that leads us, if we need to revisit this or whatever, and so it makes sense to defer this. I got a sense that there may be something that comes out of it that incorporates it, but I'm sure a year from now we'll be in a different position.
I think we should probably reconsider the radial railway as well. Councillor Gartner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I agree with Councillor Perry and Councillor Abel, but I do agree we need to defer this, but I don't think, I mean, I would like to maybe revisit it through a council report for council to be giving some feedback that a consultant could pick up on. There's a lot of ideas around the table, so I wouldn't mind this coming back to us as a council before the next budget cycle for our input.
I think that will fall out of the various reports we've got now, plus, you know, some,
Okay.
I guess a report coming back on the parking study, so.
Thank
that
you.
case-
I don't know about the rest of you. I'm receiving a lot of complaints from residents that
Fair enough.
it's looking pretty bad, and we haven't done anything.
So option C is on the table. All in favor? Contrary? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. Go back to 12.6. Parking permit program. Who pulled that, Madam Clerk? I'm sorry. Councillor Gartner, you pulled the parking permit?
I just wondered if this would be of any help for the Go parking situation that the residents insist is happening. But I think that Tasha may have some updates that she hasn't given us yet.
Good, Ivy.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Tasha provided a report, BBS 15009 was a parking permit management solution in town, the parking at Town Park for commuters and residents. It does address some of that. The parking solution is something that we could add on to our current mobile program, so the current ticket program.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, was that a report that's about a month old or 5 weeks old?
The date on the report is September 8th, and there's a report that's being generated from myself and Mandy Crawford, the manager of bylaw, that Tasha will be bringing forward by the end of this month.
Great, thank you.
The comments on this item, please? Do you have a motion? Councillor Gartner, would you care to put a motion on the floor for that?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, and I remember that report from the 8th, but that isn't addressing what I had with respect to the GO parking.
Just a motion, please.
I don't have a motion.
A? So Councillors Maracas and Perry? I'll second A. Okay. All right. Any other speakers?
Thanks, Chair. I was just going to say that I know that there's probably a report. The last time this was brought before us at September 8th, we specifically mentioned that there's a lot of information that we'd like to see come back to us, and which is not going to be coming back to us till I think November, when Ms. Van Loon comes back from her vacation. So I'd prefer to just be and have this for conditional approval until we get that report and finalize exactly what this system is going to look like at the end of the day.
Did I misunderstand? I had A. Is that a?
No, and I'm just saying I'd prefer B, because I'd like to see, I think that we need to see that report in the finalized way the system is actually going
Okay,
to
so
work.
who moved, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk? Councillor Perry and Councillor Thompson moved A.
I'm just
Okay, fair enough. So the motion on the floor is for Councillor.
Just going back to that, right, I think the point is that this would be the solution provider, the solution provider that staff recommend. It was more around the configuration, and Ms. Van Leeuwen had indicated that because it's fully customizable and configurable, it could meet the additional components that different members of staff are looking for. And I think that report, when it comes back, will identify that. But I don't know if the system, you know, the backbone will change. So that's why I'm fine with A, and then we can have a conversation about how we're going to best utilize the system.
Okay, calling it for option A. All in favor, please. Contrary? That carries. Item 12-7. Madam Clerk, that was Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to put D on the table. If you'd like to, D.
I'm sorry, B for Bob?
D for
for-
dead.
D for dead. That's a little drastic, but carry on.
You know, I've been paperless for the last, I don't even know how long, 3 years at this point. I think it makes sense that we should be able to move in this direction. We've currently only got it in place for the 2016 budget. If the municipality starts purchasing equipment for us, you know, there's repairs, there's buying new equipment for a new council, that's not reflected in this budget. I would much rather see us remove this entirely, maybe work on some sort of reimbursement for half of the value of a tablet or new laptop if we'd like to move in this direction. I'm sure that staff are able to find $1,000 in their budget if they needed to purchase something for our meetings, but on the whole, I'm not sure that this is something that we necessarily want to be investing in, because there are going to be reinvestments. And if there was a reimbursement up to $500, if you know, somebody's computer dies, they need something specifically for council-related activities, I think that could work. It would come out of an operating budget as opposed to us allocating $15,000 this year. You know, that software is going to be redundant in 4 years, so you know, in 2020, allocating another $15,000 is just a simpler way to move about it, in my opinion.
Mr. Elliott, before I go to other members of council, can you give us a bit of background, please?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there's a parallel project on this, and it's the meeting management software that the legal and clerks divisions are working on. And that product is supposed to be specified fairly soon, and I think tendered this fall. That will begin the process of moving towards paperless agenda preparation, agenda circulation, and ease of use for members of the public and members of council in a paperless fashion. To go with that, separate from that is this project, which is to bring hardware to this table and to this room that can accommodate that that software more easily. Certainly, many of us have laptops, but many members of council, if we're adding a device onto our network for council's use, whether it's a bring your own device or whether we provide the device, the major cost of it is the software license and the both for the meeting management software, but also more importantly the internet connection and the BlackBerry Enterprise server license. These are not cheap. So we just have a nominal value in here to provide hardware, but more importantly the necessary licensing as a placeholder, because we anticipate that there are some members of council who will want us to provide them with a device, or at least provide them with the license necessary to make use of the software and to connect to our town network.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And Mr. Elliott, partially addressed what I was going to speak to is that I think that there might be a perception that this is linked to, hardware or physical devices being provided to individuals. But for me, I see this more on the software and the license component. I've been part of the Bring Your Own Device, the iPhone pilot program. And so, what it's enabled me to do is give back my town BlackBerry and save the town some money by not having the town BlackBerry, because I now have full integration to the town system on my iPhone and my iPad. And so being able to do that, there is a license associated with the BlackBerry Enterprise Server 12 and the pieces around that. And so, I couldn't tell you the details, but I think by investing in this technology, the software and the licenses, there's a potential for the town to actually save money, because there are some staff members as well are utilizing it. And so I think that it is a good project to move forward with. I wouldn't be in support of deleting it. Perhaps, it'd be helpful for other members to get that additional details, but the way I see it, it further advances the corporation by allowing us to use whatever devices we need, but to give that support to multiple operating system platforms. And that's what I see more around this mobility solution piece, because I can be honest with you, I hated carrying two phones, and having one phone, my own personal phone, and that integration has been good for me. Speaking with other staff members who are part of the pilot program, they all seem to be very supportive of it as well. And so I think there's an opportunity that while there's a cost associated with the software and the licensings and the servers and those pieces, I think that will be more than offset with the savings to the town.
Thank you. Other speakers, please. Councillor Perry?
I would only add, Mr. Mayor, that I agree with Councillor Thompson, but this is a one-year $15,000 cost. I anticipate that in future there is going to be more servers and licensing and software that's not reflected here in this. I would also anticipate that it's not a yearly program, it's an annual that would come out of our operating budget. I agree that integration is vital. I think it's important, but I don't think we need to be going about it in this way. I think there are some more efficient ways from the town's perspective for a bring your own device. And if we would like to offer, a rebate for members of council who go out and purchase their own devices, I think that could work. But looking at this, I'm seeing $15,000 for hardware, although, software, licensing, and supporting servers is identified. I think the scope of this project really is the hardware, and I I think there are probably some better ways for us to go about it, because I do anticipate that there are going to be annual costs in addition to the hardware, like the servers, and I think that integration is important, but I'd like to see it as more of a bring your own device than you know, a town-owned device.
So Mr. Elliott, to Councillor Perry's point, operating versus capital.
Certainly, there is operating impacts to deploying additional devices and additional licensing, regardless of whether it's a bring your own device, which we still have to pay for additional licensing, depending on how the configurations are working. And again, this is really a placeholder so that we are enabled financially to be able to accommodate council in the manner that is most appropriate for the new software and for each individual. As Councillor Thompson pointed out, his iPhone and iPad are connected to our town network. We've had to acquire a specific license for him because it's non-BlackBerry. It's quite a bit more expensive than the BlackBerry license was, but he surrendered that one, but it is more expensive for the other one. When we get to this other software, again, depending on the product we choose, there may be individual licenses or it may be an enterprise license. And so it's not clear what the operating impacts of this is, other than to say we identified the fact that we need some financial provision so that we can look after council and activate and make use of this new software as quickly and as efficiently as we can on an individual needs basis.
I understand your point, Mr. Elliott, but I don't think that answers Councillor Perry's question as to why is this in capital. I understand the concept of placeholder, I think we all do, but why is, I would see this as an operating. Can you not put a placeholder in operating versus capital?
Normally when we're acquiring additional systems or additional hardware that's new to the town, that's not replacement, it comes in the growth and new capital. As we have in the past, we've got mobility devices just above for parks and bylaw, I believe, in a separate line. So those are hardware tablets. So this is jointly both hardware and licensing. Again, we're not sure whether it's an operating or a capital at this point. It'll be a mix and match this year. Once we know the operating impacts next year, they will be buried in the operating budgets.
Thank you. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, you know, iPad, iPhone, BlackBerry software, let's just, for an old timer like myself, I'll leave it with you to decide, but the one item that catches my attention is paperless. I'm in the process, I do a purge about every half year in my office, and I carry down pounds and pounds of all my council stuff. And I can't throw it all out to the curb, it's too heavy, so I drop half in my bucket. It takes about a month before I dispose of it. So I can imagine that it takes staff time to put all those photocopies out for each and every member of council and parts of staff. Copies out there, that's a resource out we can do without expending on. Toner, the running of the machines, and then just the sheer weight and volume of paper consumed. I would really like to go to a paperless idea, and if this placeholder, as Mr. Elliott has said, will see to that end. We've been saying this for 4 years. Let's do it. I'm all in favor of moving ahead. I do not want to move back because there might be a better way or wait for something. It's hard. And then the gas to travel, to move that product. I mean, the carbon footprint alone on paper is unbelievable. So I would be all in, I know we'll make savings. We'll be more efficient. And so I would like to move forward with this as soon as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councillor Abel. I think you know, it's important for us to go paperless, and I'm sure everyone agrees on that. But further to that, I think it's important. A lot of us always want as much information as possible, and we want it as handy as possible and be able to pull it up as immediately as possible. And I think this is a way to do it and to move forward. So I'm all in favor of moving forward with this the way it is.
Okay, then I'll call the vote. Right now, wasn't seconded. So is there, is there a second for the, for option D? No second, Councillor Perry. Another option, please.
I'll move A.
Is there a second, Councillor Abel? Any further comment or question on A? Calling the vote. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried, Madam Chair. Madam Clerk? Whatever, I just elevated you, that's right, yeah. Anytime, good. 112. 12-11. Getting dyslexic here. Streetlights? Madam Clerk? Councillor Thompson? Oh, staff, that's right.
Oh, thank you. Through you, or to you, Mr. Chair, we identified this on the weekend as staff were preparing for this. The document on this, on 1211, excuse me, just catch up. This document is currently funded growth and new, and in fact, this is a repair and replacement of existing poles that require replacement, whether they've been clipped by unidentified vehicles or just through age are deteriorating and need to be replaced. The director can speak more to the project. We just need to recategorize this as a repair and replacement type project and fund it from the roads R&R. And so that the value does not change. We also believe that this should be sort of an ongoing item. And so next year you may see the same thing planned out multiple years. So we'll be looking at updating our 10-year capital plan during the year and reflect this next year.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. So with that, do we need a motion, Madam Clerk, to change the funding source? So would someone please move, Councillor Perry, thank you, Councillor Maracas, second, just to change the funding source at this point, so to amend this particular project. All in favor? Contrary? That's amended. Any comments or questions then on this item? Would someone please put that on the floor then? Councillor Gardner?
Am I putting this on the floor, or is it on the floor?
I'm sorry?
This is on the floor?
If you have a question, yeah.
I guess to Mr. Simonovskis, $50,000, how many poles would that replace? Do you have any idea how many poles we have in town at this point?
Through Mr. Mayor, we have about 4,500 light poles, and I believe it's about 3,000 to 4,000 per pole. The poles are maybe 1,200 to 2,000, depending on the style.
Councillor?
So the poles itself, and then to put them up. And
Yes.
what was that figure again for each pole, 3,000?
I'd say 3,000 to 4,000 per pole.
Thank you.
Councillor Maracas?
I'll move that, A.
Thank you. Councillor Perry, second again. Are there any other comments or questions? All in favor? Contrary? It's carried. $12.18, Councillor Thompson. 18. See a sewer, sanitary sewer on Leslie?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, I had a conversation during the break with Mr. Simonovskis about, why the town was having to pay for this as opposed to the developers or the region. And so I just thought that perhaps it would be a bit of a good piece of information for the rest of council. So I was just wondering if Mr. Simonovskis would mind taking a few minutes just to sort of expand on why this has come to us.
Mr. Simonovskis, please.
Starting through Mr. Mayor, so this project is part of our servicing for the 2C lands. And typically, if a developer can build the infrastructure for us, we would provide development credits for that infrastructure or investment that they make. In this case, this pipe is to service future lands, primarily the industrial lands east of Leslie and north of St. John's, which there hasn't been anything formalized with regards to an application there. So because of the construction of Leslie Street being proposed by the region, we want to include this project in that capital work. So essentially, this project doesn't cost us any money because these fees are development funded, and the money would be transferred to the region as part of their capital project to build the infrastructure. So that's sort of, we don't see a lot of these because often the developers build the infrastructure for us. The last time we've seen something like this was when we were doing Bloomington Road, when we were funding the streetlights and sidewalks, which was also development funded from a growth perspective.
Councillor? Councillor Thompson? Okay. Councillor Gartner?
Just to make sure that I'm clear on this, so we're funding this now because there's no development in place, and we will be refunded for that? Did I get that right?
Mr. Simonauskas?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So essentially, this is a project that's in our development charges background study, and typically we would pay for those projects, but because in the past we've had opportunity for developers to build this infrastructure, we would credit them for that work. In this case, the industrial lands in the area there aren't applications far enough along to have a developer come forward and build the infrastructure, and we want to make sure we get it built as the regional road is being upgraded.
Councillor?
Thank you, and I understand that part. So, so there will never be an opportunity for the developer to fund this because we are taking that on.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess the only opportunity that might happen is if the region defers the project and development does come forward on Leslie Street. But right now, the way it's unfolding, the schedule would be that we would build it on behalf of the development community.
And do we get any money back from the development community for it?
Yes, it's fully funded because it's in our development charges background study. We're collecting fees for this project.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out. Okay.
Yes.
And we have this money? Sorry, I didn't check. Do we have this money in our reserve?
Mr. Elliott?
It's all part of our long-term plan on the DCs, and the DCs become healthy at the end of the 10 years. And so, yes, it's there's $2.3 million in the reserve, I'm told.
So are we have the money to pay for this? It's not gonna be an interest?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Motion, please. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Second. Councillor Perry. All in favor? Contrary? It's carried. Thank you. Item 12-22.
Mayor Dahl, may I ask that we deal with 23 first before 22?
You may. You may ask.
Can I have I'll move a motion to advance 23 and ahead of 22.
Seconded by Councillor Gartner. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
I guess, do we have a map that we can put on the overhead that addresses underpass A? I have it within my notes and files, but I think it would be helpful for council to see that connection.
Through Mr. Mayor, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't anticipating there was going to be a requirement for a map. So it was part of the staff report when we brought the staff report forward, but.
I can find some.
So not to rehash all the conversations we've had about this, but in 2013, underpass A was in front of us and council as a whole said no. It was a unanimous vote. We then had a delegation that spoke to it. We went off and did a feasibility study based upon a recommendation from the Trails Committee, if I remember correctly. But now I see it's back before us. Yeah. It's $1 million for that one. And through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, the lands to the east of underpass A, have we secured them with the trail connection?
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to my knowledge, no. I don't believe we have secured those lands. If I could, though, with regards to the process we went through here, Councillor Thompson's correct. We did come forward. There was a there was the recommendation was refused or was not approved by council. We had a delegation. We prepared a subsequent report, and we did receive council approval to move forward with underpass A.
Can you clarify where that report is? Because I wasn't able to find that.
I'd be happy to get it. Not a problem.
I guess I've always been concerned about underpass A, the $1 million price tag. I mean, the other ones, the feeling around the table was because the region was going to support it. There was an ability for us to do it at significantly less cost. It was a different issue than underpass A. My concern still to this date is the fact that we may be spending $1 million on an underpass whereby there may be no trail connection to it. And so again, it could be the bridge to nowhere. And so, I mean, it's nice to see it there because, on top of that, there's still that question about how are we getting from one side of St. John's to the other, as you see to the north. That's not been secured or any decision based on that as well. And so that whole section that goes through employment lands is slated to have a trail section. And I just think that while I understand that the opportunity is there because the region is redoing Leslie Street, both the cost as well as, the question marks surrounding our ability to secure that property, I just don't feel that, at this time that that's the right decision to make. I recognize that the funding source is DCs, but it's coming out of our recreational DCs. And, we have a lot of demands on those rec DCs, including facilities and other things that we all have identified. And I just don't want to see us put money in this bucket at the cost of a different facility bucket. And so I'm not supportive of underpass A. If council decides that they'd like to see a further report that speaks again to all the underpasses, the whole trails master plan, and let's have this conversation at council with all of the details around it, I'm happy to support a B, but at this point, I will not support A.
Mr. Elliott, I was going to go to you, but could you confirm the price? Because the budget here is $427.50, not $1 million. 23. Wrong one. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wrong one. Mr. Elliott.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in preparing in our final reviews of our 10-year capital plan, we identified that we had the underpasses funded incorrectly, showing as funded incorrectly. These are included in the roads component of the DC charge. They are showing here, we corrected it in the 10-year plan. Unfortunately, we missed updating these 2 pages, and so both 22 and 23 should be showing as funded from the roads DC. I apologize for that miss.
So at the very least, Council, we should have a motion to correct the funding source, please, to amend this report. Councillor Gardner, second, please. Councillor Abel. And that's to correct, Madam Clerk, you have that? That's to correct the funding source. All in favor? This is just the amendment. Contrary? That's carried. So back to the main motion then. Councillor Abel. Councillor Gardner.
Mr. Mayor, and there was a brief discussion just before we resume back. I think it's important that this council review and understand what was all transpired leading up to this. I think it's a great story on 3 of them. We did address underpass A, and to my recollection, as much as Councillor Thompson's brought to, we approved the 3 because the region was going to pay for half. The DCs was going to pay for the other half. There would be no expense. I thought it was brilliant. It's now been brought to our attention that underpass A at $1 million, the region won't participate in, but we can use our DCs from road. Is that what we just?
Well, roads.
Roads, DCs. And at any rate, Councillor Thompson has brought up, like, where is that going to lead to? Because one half we don't have the land. I thought we had this basically settled. I wasn't in favor of underpass A before. I'm still not. And that's the item we're talking to. So I will not support it. But I also think that would be great if we had a review B, so that everyone, when they're all present, because we have 2 councillors that are new, that haven't done it, and I'm sure we could all just use a sort of review to understand how we got to this point.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'm in support of B for the same reasons. And I think, especially now that the funding is coming out of roads, we need to look at, are we going to plow this? I mean, all of these things that we're putting in place, the use of them is really from May to October, unless we do some maintenance during the winter. And that was always one of my concerns. But now, especially as it's coming out of this DC, I'd like to look at that.
Any other speakers to the item, please? Councillor Marcus.
I'll move B.
B for Bob. Option B? Yeah, option B. You're seconding that, Councillor Abel? And you had something else you wish to add?
I wanted to ask, through you, Mr. Mayor, a question that if we decided to take the DC funding from roads instead of the underpass, could we use it for sidewalks or some other matter?
Mr. Elliott, can you answer that question?
In the consultation with the development community for the DC background study, the development community was very interested in how we were proposing on funding these underpasses and just how much of these we were pushing towards them versus the existing community. These ones are 100% in the DC. There are other underpasses proposed in the 10-year capital plan and within the DC background study that have some contribution towards the existing taxpayer. So I would suggest that if we choose not to construct these, the developers will be looking for us not to be spending this money on anything but.
All right, thank you.
Well, Councillor, you okay?
Yeah.
Councillor Gardner. No, I've got Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson.
Just, you know, underpass, if we don't have east-west links to our trail system, I'm really not sure what underpass A is going to do for us. So that's another component that I'd like to have looked at.
Councillor Thompson.
Further to Councillor Abel's question and comment, I mean, really it was that, you know, could you redirect it so that you could expand it and connect DNA, right, underpass, where underpass D is and underpass A is, by running a wider, more extensive sidewalk up Leslie Street to connect it. But, you know, that's, for this point, that's neither here nor there, and that's a further discussion. You know, I'm fine with option B, but you know what, I guess the wording is a conditional approval, and I'd prefer that we not have it say a conditional approval. I guess we just say conditional pending a further report, because in my perspective, I don't want to give optically the perception that we are approving these things. I think it is conditional pending another approval, but I'm not comfortable with it saying conditionally approval. It's semantics, it's wordsmithing, whatever you want to look at it, but that's why.
Well, B does say conditional pending further.
It says conditional approval, I believe.
But we can do whatever the heck we want, but it's
That would be my preference. I know it is just wordsmithing and use everybody's indulgence, but I would rather say conditional pending a further detailed report to council. I
So
just want to
that's-
leave out the budget approval piece,
that's B sub 1.
if we can in this case.
Madam Clerk, we okay with that? So,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
doesn't matter, we've got the wording, so it's conditional budget, no, conditional pending. We'll take out budget approval. Conditional pending a further detailed report to council. You okay with that, Councillor Thompson? Everybody understand? All in favor? We did get a, Councillor Abel seconding it, right? All in favor? Contrary? Is the blood running from your arm now? Thank you. So that's B sort of. Item 1222. That was pulled, Madam Clerk, by Councillor Thompson, who's retrieving his. Yep. Councillor?
Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, in the explanation highlights, it says that the Trails Master Plan identifies a total of 11 underpasses, but what you're asking for here is just for the 2 underpasses for the 475?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. C and D on the previous plan.
And what's the status of B then, which was illustrated? B is the one that I guess provides access from south of St. John's to north of St. John's, probably just around where the cell tower is.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I know, and it's a bridge structure, and there's actually a walkway going under or halfway through that tunnel. I apologize, I can't tell you exactly where that is, how far it is in the design phase or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it has approval, but I'd have to come back and confirm.
And can you provide some clarification as to why this one these 2 underpasses are significantly less than the one we just discussed?
Mr. Downey.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the staff report that we presented to council in 2013, we identified 3 underpasses, A, C, and D, for approval. C and D were supported by the region. They felt that these were in a location that were easily constructed as part of the reconstruction of Leslie Street, and they were in support of sharing the financial requirements of these underpasses, because they were also going to double as sewer easements, my understanding is. With regards to A, they were not in support of A, and felt if the municipality wished to move forward with A, it was that the entire cost had to be covered by the municipality. That's why there's a difference in the 2 prices.
And I just can't remember, was that sharing, 50% sharing or 1/3 sharing? I don't remember in terms of what the region's portion was.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my recall was 50% funding, and they had actually reduced their estimate. They had estimated almost $1 million per crossing. They then came down substantially in their estimate, however, stayed with the 50% shared financial contribution.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Councillor Abel.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Downey, A, the one the region didn't support, had some challenges with the river, I think. There was going to be, if I understood correctly, which is why they wouldn't support it as well. But I'm just thinking, recalling, I don't know if you can either. And that's why I thought it might be valuable that we have a report to kind of go over it.
I think it was deeper.
It was deeper, and the water course was there, so there was going to be extra work going through to support it. And, there was all kinds of, there was a couple of other items why.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, one of the issues was if we wanted a trail connection through there, it needed to be an underpass as opposed to at grade, because the grades in that particular area are fairly significant, and it was going to require us to purchase some additional lands in order to accommodate an at grade, which was outside of the regional road allowance. So we had recommended going forward with an underpass, since we could then deal with those significant grades, and we would not look at purchase of additional lands.
Any other comments on this particular item? Motion, please. Councillor Abel.
I would move B.
B,
Yes.
second, Councillor Thompson. What else would be coming back? What would be coming back?
Report for other councils.
I'm sorry?
Just so that we all, the other members are understanding and a review for us. I mean, Mr. Downey did provide it right now, but we have councillors missing. That's why I thought I would bring it forward. That's B.
Okay, so is this really, Mr. Downey?
Mr. Mayor, I apologize for interjecting, but we have council approval for this. So if you wanted a report, we would simply provide you with that same report that we received council approval on, if that's what council is looking for.
That was my whole idea of putting it forward.
Okay. All in favor? Contrary? That's carried.
Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, I know we've just moved, just going back to it. I mean, the reason for C and D was it provides a connection to all the trails that are going through the employment lands. We still haven't secured any of those trails, including the one that goes through State Farm, have we not? I mean, those are still all while identified in the plan. We haven't secured the necessary arrangements to go through any of those employment lands, including along the 404, have we?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can't say for sure on the south linkage and the D linkage. I would want to confirm that with staff. I believe that we have secured that, but I'm not 100% sure, and we have done it on the west side.
Yeah, and I think, really it's to the east that we're talking about along the 404, and so I think that is some value in identifying the status of those employment land properties, whether we secured it or not. Also, C was meant to connect to Newmarket, was it not?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct, it was.
Do you know if Newmarket has gotten down to, I guess, the connection point?
I don't, but I certainly will be addressing all of these issues
Perfect.
regarding the status of where we are with all of these connections. Like I say, the timing is we may have underpasses with no trail connections if we construct them at this point, mostly to do with the timing. The timing of the underpasses is tied into the reconstruction of Leslie and St. John, which we are not in control of.
And I understand that. I just want to have a sense that there's a strong likelihood or a probability that those linkages will come with time, as opposed to hearing something that may be a substantive barrier. So appreciate it.
Okay. Council, that finishes all the items. So first of all, my thanks to council for obviously doing their homework, and my thanks to staff for some good reports. Appreciate that. It allowed us to do our job much more quickly. So just, council, before I look for a motion to adjourn, just wanted to make a suggestion here that we'll bring forward to the next council meeting for approval, but to change our schedule, change our budget schedule. So, okay, thank you. So we had Monday the 28th was our kickoff. We've done that. Monday the 5th, our capital budget review. We've just completed that. So the suggestion was we had already booked for November the 2nd to start at 7 for the operating budget. We're suggesting we do 5:30 start. And then, so a revised start time, is that with or without, so dinner at 5?
Yes.
So dinner at 5, and then start time at 5:30, which would allow us to make a pretty good start, I believe, on our capital budget, pardon me, our operating budget, thank you. We can probably delete Saturday, November the 7th, which is a Saturday meeting, which was operating budget review. I think we might be able to delete that. A new meeting, Monday, November the 16th, from 5:30 to 7, for continuation of the November the 2nd review. Monday the 16th, and this will be circulated to everybody for council consideration a week tomorrow night. So the Monday the 16th for the Library Board, the Cultural Board, and the Historical Society presentations only. And then Monday the 23rd for additional follow-up as may be necessary. So this will, again, this will come out as a memo, but I just a suggestion for you to start mulling over. And I believe you distributed this already, Mr. Okay. Councillor Abel?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, did you say on the 16th, 5:30?
No, I did not. On the 16th, 7.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. 16th, 5:30. 5:30 to 7.
That's why I just asked, because
Yeah,
the memo
apologies.
handed out.
It's an
says
add-on.
7.
Thank you.
That's all right. I just want to make sure I heard that.
Yeah,
I'm listening and watching, and when it doesn't jive, I just ask.
thank you. Okay, so again, this will come forward for council approval a week tomorrow night.
I love it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
All right. May I please have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Thompson. Councillor Maracus. All in favor? Contrary? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you, staff.